In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind.
Let's talk college football. It's time for the Sports Page Summer of College Football, presented by Buddy Gregg RVs and Motorhomes, our daily preview of teams and conferences around the country for the upcoming college football season. Find Buddy Gregg RVs and Motorhomes on their Facebook page, their website at buddygregg.com, and follow them on Twitter at Buddy Gregg RVs. Now let's take a full conference look at the Big 12.
To help us do that, we go straight to Big 12 Media Days in Dallas, Texas. We bring in Fox Sports TV college football analyst. You've heard him do games, seen him do games with Joel Myers covering the Big 12, and is moving up even more with an opportunity with Fox Sports 1. Joel Klatt joins us here, former Colorado quarterback, here on the new Sentinel Sports Page. Hey, Joel, Vince Ferrara and Jesse Smithey here in Knoxville. How you doing, Joel?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm ready for the season to get going. It feels like it's been a long off season. I want to get this thing kicked off. You know?
No doubt about it. Well, before we get into some of the teams in the conferences, tell everyone about Fox Sports 1, your role in that, and how Fox is growing its coverage of college football and, I guess, sports in general.
Yeah, man, I couldn't be more excited. I think this is going to be something that's much needed in the marketplace. August 17th, Fox Sports 1 debuts. We're going to launch. For those that are wondering where to find us, the Speed Channel is going to rebrand as Fox Sports 1 on August 17th, and it's going to be all sports all the time, man, and it's going to be a really heavy platform for college football. We'll have a Thursday night game, which I'll be an analyst of, in the Pac-12, Big 12 Conference USA. And then we'll obviously have studio all day on Saturday. I'll be in there. Myself and Eddie George and Aaron Andrews, Mike Ferrara is going to be a part of that. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that it's going to be something that people are really going to gravitate towards and like. So August 17th, that's what's kicking off.
Well, congratulations on that, Joel. You certainly earned it. Talk about Big 12 Media Days. I know it's starting today. What's the atmosphere like there? We just came back from SEC Media Days. I know it's a little bit different with 10 teams in there.
Yeah, it's a little more tame than SEC Media Days. Johnny Manziel's not walking through this building, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But it's good. I think it's exciting. This is a really deep conference. But there is a bit of a downer to it. I've been to a lot of these guys, and there's always in the Big 12 at least one team that you could see, hey, you know, if things break their way, they're going to be in the national title hunt. It happened to be, you know, we thought Oklahoma at the beginning of the year last year. It turned out to be Kansas State. This year, I don't know if there's that team, but I do know that there is 10 really quality football teams. Kansas is going to be much better than people think. Iowa State is always very tough with Paul Rose, and they're going to bring up the cellar of the Big 12. So when I look at it, I think Oklahoma State, Texas, TCU, that's really the class of what's going on in this conference, and I think people are really excited to get this thing kicked off because there's not a lot of experienced quarterbacks coming back. So I think it's really up in the air.
Yeah, that was pretty much set up my next question, if that was why the downer is. There's no big-time returning quarterback. C-Strunk's probably your top tailback coming back in the league. But it's an opportunity for a lot of these guys to kind of write a name for themselves.
Yeah, there really is. I'll go with two guys right off the bat. You brought up one, so I don't have to mention him. Blake C-Strunk at Baylor. He's a terrific running back. I think he's going to do big things in our Browns offense. A couple of quarterbacks that have to play well for their teams to win the conference. One is David Ash at Texas, and I think everyone is expecting him to make that jump. It's his second full year as the starting quarterback for the University of Texas. I am a little worried about it, though, guys. I was at their spring game, and he didn't look all that great. You know, he threw 3 interceptions that day, and to me, you're facing your own defense. You're in your own stadium. You've seen these same guys time and time again. That's a time for a guy that has experience to really go out and light it up and show people why he's the incumbent and why he's going to have a great year. And he threw 3 picks, so I get a little worried about that. Another quarterback I'll mention is Casey Paul. And we all know, it's been well documented, his troubles over the course of the last year. But now he's back. And if you think back, I always go back to early last season. And Casey Paul was the starting quarterback for TCU. They were undefeated. I believe they were 4-0 at the time. They were ranked in the top 15 in the country. Then everything transpires. He leaves the team, and they struggle down the stretch with young quarterback play, some younger players around that quarterback. But now they got Devontae Fields, who's going to be the best defensive player in the conference. They got Verrett, who's a terrific corner. And now you got Casey Paul back. I think TCU is going to win the Big 12 conference. And I think that they're going to do it with quality defensive play, which is a staple of Gary Patterson, and quality quarterback play from Casey Paul.
When you look at Oklahoma, I know some people pick them maybe first or second in the league. You got Blake Bell there at quarterback. He's a 4-star coming out of high school. I think even Tennessee was maybe in the mix with him, if I remember correctly. Stoops out there has a history of performing or getting the best out of quarterbacks. What do you see out of Blake Bell this year?
Yeah, I think it's going to be different. Think of how many years in a row now we've seen the Sam Bradford style, Landry Jones style, of somebody just sitting in the pocket, not all that mobile, and really slinging it for Oklahoma. And now you're talking about a guy that is very much cut from the same cloth as Tim Tebow, was also at their spring game. And Blake did pretty well. I think that he's got a lot of room for growth, to put it nicely, in terms of throwing the football. But if they can run the football as dynamically as they think they can with some of their running backs that they have, and then Blake Bell is in there as well, they're going to be very physical and hard to stop. It's going to be interesting. 10 games has been a staple for Bob Stoops, and he's a terrific coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in America. And it's going to be difficult this year, though. I really believe so. Their defense lost so much. They've got young players on the defensive line. And so it's going to be a tough year. Blake Bell is going to have to play what I think is above his level at this point in order for them to do something special and maybe win the conference.
Previewing the Big 12 with Joel Klatt, college football analyst for Fox Sports Television and Fox Sports 1 here on the new Sentinel Sports page. Joel is at Big 12 Media Days in Dallas. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at Joel Klatt, JoelKlatt on Twitter and at Fox Sports. Joel, you mentioned you were at Texas's spring game, and you talked about how David Ash didn't look good. How talented a roster is that at Texas? And they, with that quarterback question, does that keep them from rising back towards the top, or what do you think about Texas overall?
Oh, they're going to be right there. They're going to be right there. It wouldn't shock me at all if there was a few teams tied for the conference championship, especially because, there's no divisions, there's no championship game, and so you just have this round-robin format. It's a really talented roster, to answer your question. A lot of returning starters, but they're going to have to get some of that moxie back. Earlier this decade, they played defense with a swagger, and I haven't seen that in the last couple of years. I think Manny Diaz has his work cut out for him. He's got some very talented players. They can run, tackle. They look like Tarzan. I tell you what, they look good. They just got to get that swagger back to play some attacking style of defense, gain some turnovers, and get themselves off the field. But I think Texas is going to be right there. If Ash plays well, they would be my pick. But I picked TCU based off what I saw in the spring, and David Ash just wasn't ready.
How much talk do you hear about Mac Brown associated with the term hot seat?
A little bit, which is strange, I got to say. But the expectations are high there. And I think that term hot seat is attached based off what has happened against Oklahoma the last couple of years. He's given up well over 100 points in the last 2 years to Oklahoma. And you just can't do that. You just can't do that at Texas. But the one thing that Mac has going for him as far as job stability is that DeLoss Dodds has come out in vehement support of Mac Brown, and Mac's done a heck of a job. He seems to be reinvigorated. I've talked to him countless times now, and he just always preaches the same thing, which is that we're Texas, and we're going to get our swagger back, and we're going to play well, and we're going to go and do all these things. And I think this year he really believes it. So I hear the term, I just don't believe it. Mac is not in trouble.
I just wondered because, like you said, their defense last year was pretty atrocious. I think statistically the worst in Texas history. And I'm looking at an article in Athlon's preseason magazine. At the very bottom, it has a quote from Mac Brown that says, "We're going to win a national championship in the next 2 or 3 years." When you say something like that publicly and you don't achieve it, and that pretty much get you a kick in the butt right out the door. I mean, it happened with Sylvester Croom at Mississippi State, where he talked about we're going to win the SEC, and of course that didn't happen. He's gone.
Yeah, hey, that's true. Let's just put it this way. If I was a head coach, I wouldn't be throwing any of those benchmarks out there for like, hey, if I don't do this by this date, then you can essentially fire me. But Mac has been around, and he's done all that. He's won the national championship at Texas. I think he's got a lot of talented kids around him. And what he's trying to do, more so than saying this is what I think is going to happen, what he's trying to do is provide a rhetoric that his kids can be around, and so that the players at Texas start maybe thinking that about themselves to get that swagger back. Because, again, some of what was lost at Texas the last couple of years was mentality. They're talented. You know, they're as talented as they've been in some of their 10 and 11-win seasons, but they don't have the mentality and the mindset that they're going to go out and win every single game. So that's part of what Mac is also doing. It's a little bit of a mind game with his own players to try to get them to believe that that's how good they are and that's how good they're going to play.
Well, someone that isn't short on swagger is Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech. What do you think about him as a head coach, and how do you think he'll do with Texas Tech?
I think he's going to do really well. I loved the hire. I really did. I've sat with Cliff a few different times when we're doing their games. I've done his game at Houston, talked with him last year, and I always came away from some of those meetings thinking to myself, he's going to be a terrific head coach. It happened a little bit sooner than I thought it would. But when you're talking about your alma mater, a school that's trying to get back to that same identity which made them so successful, and they went back to, at least from a playing perspective, the godfather of that mentality. Cliff was the first one. You know, they're going back to the origins of what made them Texas Tech. And Cliff is a bright guy. He's really learned from Kevin Sumlin. I think that's one of the things that people underestimate is all these coaches that get their first job. It's important that they had coaches previously that they coached under that taught them how to be a head coach. And that's what I saw from Kevin Sumlin and Cliff Kingsbury, is that Cliff wanted to be a head coach. Kevin knew it, so he brought him in on decision-making processes. He allowed him to grow in that respect rather than just a guy who's just back in his office. He's a position coach, and everybody thinks he did a great job, so all of a sudden he gets a head coaching position. Cliff has been groomed for this, and I think he's going to do a really nice job. I don't know if that's going to translate into a lot of wins early, but that's just because their personnel is not quite where they need to be for Cliff's offense, but he'll get there. There's no doubt about it.
Fox Sports TV college football analyst covering the Big 12, Joel Klatt, joining us from Big 12 Media Days here on the new Sentinel Sports page. Joel, I want to step out of the Big 12 for just a second. You're a former Colorado quarterback. Did you think before he came to Tennessee that Butch Jones was going to be Colorado's head football coach?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looked that way. I think that they were further down the road than many people think. I think that the offer was there. I believe that Colorado did and made a huge mistake. Mike Bone, who's the former now athletic director at the University of Colorado, made a huge mistake. I think he had Butch fairly committed on campus, but let him walk away without a contract. And let him walk away without sealing the deal. Butch wanted to go and talk it over with his family. I know he talked with some other coaches around the country and decided to go in a different direction. Ultimately, what I feel like it was is that Butch just didn't feel like it was a great fit. And then, two, he was worried about the stability of his athletic director if he were to accept a job from Mike Bone. Well, guess what? Butch turned out to be a really smart guy because Mike Bone didn't even make it to the next football season. That's why I feel bad for Mike McIntyre, who did take the Colorado job. But for a second there, I thought Butch was going to be the Buffs head coach, and now he's a Vol, and he's done a heck of a job. Without coaching a game, guys, you guys have to be excited about Butch and everything he's doing just based on recruiting. He's doing a heck of a job.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions coming in was, would he and his staff be able to recruit the SEC? And they have answered those questions incredibly to this point. Joel,
that's a resounding yes, isn't it?
It is. And you know it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. Talk about West Virginia. How much will West Virginia drop off this year when you have those receivers gone? Geno Smith is gone. How far back does West Virginia fall?
Man, they're a lot. I mean, no team in the country is going to lose as much productivity from their passing game as West Virginia. Geno Smith, Stedman Bailey, and Davon Austin.
Mm-hmm.
They were the most dynamic passing offense that I saw last year. I saw them a bunch of times. We saw them against Baylor in that game. I think it was like, I swear, like 68-58 or something like that, 63-58. We saw them against Oklahoma late in the season. That game in Oklahoma won. We saw them against TCU. TCU went in there and beat them in overtime. And that was with all these players. You cannot give up 35 points a game and lose that much off your offense and expect to compete. I think West Virginia's in for a really, really tough year. There's no doubt about it.
They have some pretty weak non-conference opponents, so that ought to help.
You say that about a lot of people, though.
That's true.
What are they? There's probably like a Baptist university in there that they're playing. Nothing against Baptist, but if you put it in your school's name, you're probably not going to be a great football team.
Joel, we talked about this before we brought you on. Who do you think is the best single player in the Big 12?
Oh, man, that's a terrific question. I think C-Strunk is a guy that's really good, but I'm going to go on defense. I know that sounds surprising. I think Devontae Fields is the best player in the Big 12. He is just, for a young kid, guys, he bends well. He's got terrific instincts rushing the passer. He was a huge reason why TCU was the best defense in the Big 12 in a really offensive-driven league last year. And when I look at this league up and down, and I see what they lost from wide receivers' perspectives and quarterback perspectives, and what they bring back as far as running backs, I think Fields from TCU is the best player in the league, which is why they're going to be hurt so much in the first couple of weeks when he's suspended and serving that suspension. I see them, potentially winning the league, but not having the best record overall because he's not going to be in those first couple of games, especially that opening game against LSU.